Hey guys, welcome to another episode of The Vinyl Then, your channel for record collecting by record collectors. My name is Nick.
Amine.
Today we're going to be talking about Japanese records and CDs and really kind of are they worth the hype. There's a bunch of links down below. Make sure you go check them out. There's links for the Vinyl Then Facebook group, for our merch page. There's links for the Spotify and Apple Music weekly playlist that we put together, and also the Patreon page. Make sure you go check all that out. Of course, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give us the old thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified every time we release new episodes. So for a long time, Japanese records have been kind of seen as this like higher end, high fidelity kind of product. We were talking before we started recording. It was probably like the mid 90s when I first started seeing, at least I won't say records, but
definitely it was CDs.
Definitely it was Japanese CD pressings were getting kind of popular in the mid 90s. I don't know if you wanted to talk about your I didn't really realize there was a difference. But I went to Dearborn Music with my dad in the 90s, and looking through the Jethro Tull albums, they had a lot of Japanese imports. And the only thing I noticed was it wasn't in plastic cases, they were in cardboard. So the cardboard sleeves were more like kind of traditional record sleeves, where they slid in, which they do a lot anyway nowadays, and back then, to cut probably for cutting costs. But there seemed to be like a quality to the covers that was different. And then had I had more money when I was a kid, I probably would have bought several of them, but I didn't. But that was the first time I was ever introduced to Japanese imports as a thing. Yeah, and over the last probably 20 years, well, I'd say maybe not 20, the last 10 or 15 years, I'm seeing more and more Japanese records become this really kind of prized possession as far as like audiophile records go. There does seem to be some ideas behind why these records are kind of so sought after. From what I understand, I first off, I do need to say that I don't own any Japanese pressings on vinyl or CD, and I don't think you do either, do you? No. They're supposed to be made of better quality material, quieter records, virgin vinyl
is what I've seen in a lot of articles.
So it's supposed to have a better overall sound, a quieter sound. As far as the presentation go, like you said, the CDs, some of them are different kind of packaging. Mm-hmm. With the records, they come with an OB strip on them, so it's just kind of a different presentation to the record. I do know that records, at least Japanese pressings in Japan, they're always kind of more expensive. So I think at least they're seen as they're always kind of seen as a more of an audiophile kind of product.
Right.
But I think with a lot of different pressings and labels, it really comes down to the way it's mastered. Mm-hmm. I think that's kind of always how it is. That's been like the one knock that I've seen time and time again about Japanese albums. Are some of the pressings, I'm not pressing, but some of the mastering jobs can be kind of hit or miss on some of them. Like I said, I don't think I've ever listened to any of them. Yeah, so this is kind of, I guess, more of a question that we're going to throw out to the vinyl community of what you guys think of these. Are they kind of worth the money that people are paying for these, records and CDs? Because, like I said, I've seen a lot of positives written about them. I've also seen some negatives that it really kind of depends that you really need to do your research on some of these Japanese pressings because the mastering for some of them can be quite bad.
From what we've heard. And that's going to be true of anything.
Absolutely.
Any type of pressing. So if that's true of the whole, why are Japanese pressings still considered, higher end? Yeah. Is it just because the ones that are mastered properly are better? Or is it something else? A lot of people can accuse record collectors of, heightening what they're collecting, making more out of it than it should be.
Yeah.
And are Japanese pressings something like that? Is just the idea of it that is selling? I don't know.
So I think being pressed on virgin vinyl, I think plays a big role in it. And I know from what I've read about Japanese pressing plants is they really put an effort into the pressing, into the way the records are made, because they take great pride in the product that they're making because they know it has this reputation. Mm-hmm. And they really want to uphold that reputation and put out a really great sounding quality product.
But like I said, I from what I've seen, that can be kind of hit or miss. But most of them, at least from what I've seen and read about, are great. It seems like there only tends to be a few albums that have this reputation of not sounding all that great. And like I said, I think a lot of it has to do with their process, with the product that they're using. And also, I think sometimes there's kind of this almost like a placebo effect. I think that kind of plays into it when you're paying more for a product, because Japanese pressings tend to cost more money. When you're paying more for these, I think you're almost expecting it to sound better.
There's also this an anecdote. Ian Anderson, in an interview, was talking about this resurgence of vinyl, and he was talking about how the standards are much better now. Even though a lot of the equipment is still the same equipment that was being used back then, there was this there's more care put into it.
Yeah.
In the U.S. And in the U.K. specifically, the anecdote was that he was looking at pressing plants back in the early 70s, and he went to this one plant that was pressing Led Zeppelin plates, the plates that they used to press the vinyl.
The stampers.
And the guy was smoking a cigarette, and ashes were getting on the plates, and he just brushed them off and just sending them along. Yeah. There was very little care about what was being put into it. The Japanese are well known for their high standards for everything.
Yeah.
Especially towards how workers are. They would never allow someone to be smoking in there,
Yeah. They take better care. They
right.
A little more pride in the product.
Especially in the 70s and 80s when, we're talking about this, a lot of these albums were pressed. These Japanese pressings would have come out. So that may have had a lot to do with it. So arguably, maybe if you're comparing apples to apples, an American pressing from like 1975 to a Japanese pressing, the Japanese pressing might be better quality because they won't have those human errors, those human elements that can
those small imperfections.
Small imperfections that are, as Ian Anderson pointed out, a little speck of dust on those plates could, hamper the entire line.
Yeah.
And those are going to be stuck on those records forever. So that could have a lot to do with it too.
I would like to start collecting some of the, because like I said before, I think the presentation looks kind of cool. So I'm not like against Japanese pressings. I don't want people to think that's where we're going with this conversation. But, it's just something, like I said, because there is more money involved in it. And record collecting is a really expensive hobby already. It's kind of why I've kind of stayed away from it. If I can, save $3 or $4 on a record, maybe I'll go with an American pressing or a European pressing over the Japanese pressing. But maybe I need to kind of expand my wings a little bit, maybe branch out and actually start buying some of those albums. Because I know a couple of guys that, especially with Japanese CDs, have actually a pretty big collection of them. And talk really highly about how great they sound and how superior of a sound that they have over standard CDs. Well, that's all we got for you today, guys. Thanks for checking the show out. Make sure you drop us a comment down below. Let us know what you guys think, because I'm sure, like I said, there's a lot of people out there that love Japanese pressings and have been collecting them for decades. So let me know what you guys think, because like I said, I'm sure a lot of people out there have done A-B comparisons with standard pressings. Because like I said, I don't own any of these. You don't own any of them. No. Like I said, it's more just of a question that we wanted to throw out to collectors of them out there. Let us know what you guys think. Of course, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give us the old thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. And that's all we got. Until next time.
Talk to y'all later.
Keep on spinning. Peace.